bro. Let's go. Let's go. Elbow you in the face. Elbow you in the face. Punch you in the face. Next slice.
Reality is often disappointing. If you cannot throw nuclear bombs or replace a country's population with Sado clones, you will never be a real ninja. But the character that I'm tackling today begs to differ. Albert Lee, otherwise known as the Falcon, is a strange character. Once a cold and calculating individual who lived within his means as a magician, Albert became an otaku. This transformation carried over into his skills as a martial artist. Quickly abandoning his rational and brutal methods, Falcon became a cool and mysterious ninja who transforms every fight into an elaborate magic trick. Therefore, will Albert's ninjutsu enable him to fool his way to the top, or will reality be too much for him to bear? Let's find out. Although Albert's life is supposed to be a mystery, we know that he is 29 years old, is the third son of the owner of a trading firm, has 4 siblings, and likes Singaporean chicken rice. In his adolescence, Albert learned Tai Chi, but ultimately quit before middle school. During these formative years, Albert Lee adopted his philosophy surrounding rationality, probably after his Tai Chi failed to bring about results. Following the acquisition of his philosophy, Albert became a magician. Although it isn't the most rational career, Albert preferred it because even the most complex magic requires a logical trick behind it. Therefore, it's the epitome of rationality. However, few magicians can make a living with their magic alone, and so Albert used his skills to become a wrecker, a hitman of sorts that gives targets a fate worse than death. Albert's rationale behind this decision is that murder is a crime punishable by the death sentence. But, as a wrecker, Albert can effectively avoid the legal system, and if he was caught, his sentence would be lighter. Therefore, it's a rational decision. During his time as a wrecker, Albert Lee worked with the likes of Muteba Gazinga, a world-renowned mercenary. Eventually, Albert's infamy grew so great that he was scouted by an underground martial arts organization called Heroic Tales. They offered Albert 3 times his average contract as a wrecker for each and every match. The promotion also possessed weight classes to ensure a greater degree of safety. For Albert, it was a no-brainer. Albert effectively dominated the middleweight bracket with a brutal yet rational strategy. If you haven't taken the hint yet, Albert Lee does things that are rational. While killing time before a match, Albert made the logical decision to watch a film. It just so happens that it was a film about ninjas. If he didn't like it, he could leave at any time and crash at a cafe. It was, after all, rational. But his thoughts during the film were anything but rational. On that day, Albert Lee became obsessed with ninjas. Purchasing all the volumes for Norito and adopting strange Japanese traditions such as sitting on your knees, Falcon possessed all the tools to assimilate into Japanese society. Develop his own brand of ninjutsu through trial and error. This training most likely included weapons because he's a ninja. Go figure. However, Falcon went the extra mile and turned his hands and feet into sharp talons through insane training that surpasses the limits of rationality. The explosion of Falcon's romanticism alongside his skills as a hitman and a fighter attracted the attention of Toyoda Idemitsu, who was essentially headhunting fighters from Heroic Tales. Toyoda, being the savvy guy that he is, decided to hook Falcon up with real ninjas. Poor Falcon fell for the bait, and now serves Toyoda as not only his informant, but also as a gladiator within Purgatory's A-list division. due to his performance as an A-lister. Albert Lee was chosen as one of the 13 combatants representing Purgatory in their tournament against the Kengen Association. After Carlos overcame Gaolang in the first round of the tournament, Falcon sent himself out to fight the Kengen Association's rambunctious Superman, Lehito. It remains to be one of the most entertaining fights in Kengen Omega. This is sadly where Albert's tenure ends. Now, onto strengths and weaknesses. Albert Lee created his own self-styled version of ninjutsu. Ninjutsu is the strategy and tactics supposedly used by ninjas, spies who perform the dirty work of high-class citizens. Their work centered around espionage and, most of all, assassination. Thus, ninjutsu transformed into a martial art characterized by unconventional warfare, stealth, and the use of concealed weaponry. Although Albert performs in a promotion that prohibits the use of weapons, his weapons are fashioned out of his own digits. Through intense partial training, Falcon transformed his fingers and toes into sharp talons characteristic of a carnivore. With these claws, Albert can perform lacerating techniques and can stab his opponents with his fingers or toes. His ninjutsu also incorporates basic striking techniques like a variety of kicks, uppercuts, hooks, elbows, and other rational blows. Albert also possesses ground grappling knowledge and is not only able to secure back control, but perform a rear naked choke. However, Falcon's true menace lies within his unconventional tactics. Albert's ninjutsu makes heavy use of feints. By performing the hand gestures present within the fictional world of Naruto, Albert can distract his opponent long enough such that they cannot perceive the feint. Essentially, his gang signs cause momentary distraction. Fighters who rely exclusively on their reflexes would fall for this trick because they wouldn't be able to perceive the feint. However, against opponents with superior insight, this trick loses its value because fighters with foresight will react to a prediction rather than to a distraction. However, Albert's next attribute eliminates this weakness. By intentionally throwing off the timing of his blows, Falcon is able to overcome predictions. On its own, this technique can easily be overcome by fighters with greater reflexes, since Albert is providing them an interval to strike. However, in tandem with misdirection, Falcon's ninjutsu has no openings. Therefore, Albert's ninjutsu has reached the stage where the element of surprise can be utilized in every situation. This realm of technique is known as unpredictability. However, if Albert's ninjutsu does manage to fail, he does possess one final trump card. By dipping his two big toes into pots of poison, Falcon is able to administer a toxic chemical into his opponent's body. Although the poison is harmless on the surface of the skin, once it enters the bloodstream, Albert's opponent will experience a minute effect that serves to slow down their reactions, ultimately giving Falcon the upper hand. Considering the sheer depth of Falcon's ninjutsu, Albert might as well be a real ninja. However, there are some large caveats that need to be considered. Let's talk about his weaknesses. Standing 183 centimeters tall and weighing 88 kilograms, Albert possesses the durability of MozzarellaCustard. Although Albert possesses greater speed than Rahito, he was sorely lacking when it came to durability and attack potency. This is evidenced because Rahito was able to sustain most of his attacks and only began breaking down when his poison got involved. Therefore, Falcon relies on the toxic Avenger when his regular attacks failed to bring down his opponent. Since his blows failed to bring down Rahito, a pretty strong fighter in his own right, Falcon will struggle a lot against opponents more durable than Kengen's Superman. The most surefire way to neutralize Albert's ninjutsu is to strike him before he can implement it. Blitz strategies would be very effective because it can exploit Albert's misdirection and his sidesteps, two intervals where Albert is completely defenseless from enemy attack. On the other end of the spectrum, Albert will struggle against strategies which emphasize brute force. This was thankfully illustrated in his fight with Rahito, in which Kengen Superman launched a match-defining Razor's Edge after successfully sustaining Albert's delayed elbow. Immediately after his magic trick ends, fighters who can sustain his onslaught will earn a precious moment in which they can strike. Since their opponent's far more durable than Rahito, the path for Albert Lee will be one filled with hardship. Let's talk about his matchups. The fastest boxer on Team Purgatory. In this matchup, Carlos can easily overcome Falcon's ninjutsu by striking him before he can implement his misdirection. If Falcon was to perform a sidestep, the result would be even worse. Therefore, Falcon has no means of touching Carlos, let alone applying his toxic Avenger. Falcon loses. In this matchup, Yumigahama is not fast enough to blitz past Falcon's ninjutsu, nor is he durable enough to withstand his blows. This is evidenced by the fact that Yumi was unable to sustain blows from Misasa, a man that is in fact lighter than Albert Lee. Therefore, Yumigahama cannot exploit Falcon's weakness to brute force strategies. Furthermore, Yumi doesn't possess a match-defining move like Razor's Edge, or any trump cards for that matter. So, if Yumi did use Rahito's strategy, it would be ineffective. Falcon wins. In this matchup, Albert can easily surpass Naidan's Eye of the Sky. However, Naidan's power and durability has been compared to the likes of Julius, Wakatsuki, and Kuririn. Therefore, he can implement Rahito's brute force strategy. Instead of using Razor's Edge, Naidan will throw his opponent, thus ending the match in a single move. Falcon loses. Two fighters who have adopted unpredictable martial arts. In this matchup, Liu Tian can overcome Falcon's ninjutsu. Considering that Liu Tian overcame Agito's Formless, it's safe to assume that Liu Tian currently possesses the most unpredictable version of the Formless style. Furthermore, in relation to Falcon's ninjutsu, the Formless only possesses one window of opportunity, whereas Falcon possesses two of them. Therefore, Liu Tian is more unpredictable and has less openings. Falcon loses. How strong is Alan Wu? I don't know. In this matchup, Alan cannot overcome Falcon's ninjutsu. Essentially, we have no means of comparing Alan's speed or durability because he possesses 0 feats. Therefore, it remains to be seen if Alan is fast enough to strike Falcon before he uses his ninjutsu, or durable enough to sustain it. Since he's dead, I will never know the answer. Falcon wins. In this matchup, Jurota can overcome Falcon's ninjutsu by throwing him before he can implement his misdirection. If Falcon was to perform sidesteps, the result would be even worse. If that isn't enough, Jurota can also rely upon Rahito's brute force strategy. After surviving Falcon's magic trick, Jurota would end the match by using swing. Therefore, Jurota can exploit both of his weaknesses. Falcon loses. Nicholas can overcome simple surprise attacks with his reflexes. However, Falcon's misdirection isn't that simple. I'll summarize what I said in the strength section. Falcon's misdirection involves feinting an attack, performing hand signs, and then launching the attack all in quick succession. The purpose of the hand signs is to distract an opponent long enough that they don't notice the shift. Therefore, people who rely solely on reflexes will fall for the feint because they simply can't perceive it. In this matchup, Nicholas Leybanner would fall for Falcon's misdirection. Considering that sidestepping would make him more vulnerable, he simply wouldn't use it. Falcon wins. In my previous analysis of this character, I forgot to establish the difference between Dongqing in his pissed off incarnation and the one in peak condition. After lots of thought and even rereading the fight multiple times, I noticed that Dongqing at his best stopped trying to predict his opponent, whereas the other one did. This abandonment enabled Dongqing to throw his strikes as quickly as possible. In this matchup, Dongqing at his best can overcome Falcon's ninjutsu by striking him before he can implement his misdirection. If Falcon was to perform sidesteps, the result would be even worse. If that isn't enough, Dongqing is durable enough to utilize Rihito's brute force strategy. After surviving Falcon's magic trick, Dongqing would end the match by using Fajin. Therefore, Dongqing at his best can exploit Falcon's weaknesses. Falcon loses. In this matchup, Falcon can surpass the Emperor's Eye by using misdirection. Therefore, Falcon can land as many headshots as he wants. Falcon wins. Time for the Kengen matches. Considering Falcon's attributes, he will be facing opponents who made it to the second and third rounds of the Kengen Annihilation Tournament. But first, a few honorable mentions. In this matchup, Okubo and Falcon possess the same strategy. Falcon's use of hand gestures hides his feint, while Okubo performs his feint within an opponent's blind spot. However, the key difference between the two is that Okubo has substantially better grappling skill. Although Okubo would most likely dominate his opponent in a grappling scenario, it would ultimately be a poor decision because increased contact will make him more vulnerable to the toxic Avenger. Therefore, Okubo will grow weaker and weaker as time goes on. Falcon wins. In this matchup, Inaba isn't fast enough nor durable enough to exploit Falcon's ninjutsu. Furthermore, Falcon can slice his hair. Therefore, the Inaba style has a poor matchup against Falcon. Falcon wins. If Falcon was caught in a match against Hanafusa, the Kengen multiverse opened a portal to the Norito universe, and Hanafusa was able to obtain a pair of authentic Uchiha eyes. Out of consideration for Falcon's interests, Hanafusa decided to give Falcon the Sharingan. Why did he decide to do the operation in the middle of a match? I don't know. He's just built different. In this matchup, Kioza can overcome Falcon's ninjutsu by rushing him before he can implement his misdirection. If Falcon was to perform sidesteps, the result would be even worse. Furthermore, Kioza is sturdy enough to utilize Rihito's brute force strategy. After surviving Falcon's magic trick, Kioza can deliver a flurry of Rikishi palm strikes. Therefore, Kioza can exploit both of his weaknesses. Falcon loses. Time for the real Kengen matches. In this matchup, Cosmo is incapable of surpassing Falcon's ninjutsu. For instance, Falcon's sidestep technique will disrupt Cosmo's foresight. Furthermore, this technique would also disrupt the zone because it also relies on a prediction. You can watch my breakdown of Akoya vs Okubo for a better breakdown of this technique. Nevertheless, even if Falcon was caught in a grappling position, Cosmo would be lacerated by his claws and at risk of being poisoned. Therefore, Falcon reigns supreme. Falcon wins. In this matchup, Ohma can absolutely exploit Falcon's ninjutsu. For example, Ohma can launch Flashing Steel Blast before Falcon has time to implement his misdirection. Furthermore, Demon's Bane would be perfect for implementing Rihito's brute force strategy. But Ohma doesn't have to use his coveted secret technique. He also has the option of using Indestructible and performing an Iron Breaker. Therefore, Ohma is well within his means of snapping Albert back to reality. Falcon loses. In this matchup, Muteba's surprise attacks would not impact an unpredictable fighter like Falcon. However, Muteba is well within his means of using Rihito's brute force strategy. After surviving Falcon's magic trick, Muteba would use either his heart jab or an eye poke. Therefore, Muteba would probably kill Falcon. Falcon loses. In this matchup, Wakatsuki can exploit Falcon's ninjutsu. For instance, Wakatsuki will survive his magic trick and then launch a strike. Considering how much power Wakatsuki can generate, Falcon would fly in the opposite direction. Therefore, brute force for the win. Falcon loses. In this matchup, Mikazuchi would blitz Falcon before he can implement his ninjutsu. If Falcon was to perform a sidestep, the result would be even worse. Therefore, Ray is just a better overall ninja. Falcon loses. We have already been provided a glimpse of this matchup. However, my reasoning is different from yours. While viewing Falcon's match against his student, Kuroki had worked out the timing of Falcon's misdirection. Therefore, Kuroki was able to land a strike during Falcon's hand gesture interval. Furthermore, Kuroki was able to figure out the timing between Agito's switches and even figured out the timing required to counter Mikazuchi's lightning flash, proving that Kuroki is well within his means of countering Falcon's misdirection. This goes to show that Rihito has a long road ahead of him. In this matchup, Hatsum can escape Falcon's misdirection. Due to his ability to dodge blows right at the moment they land, Hatsum will ignore Falcon's distraction. Therefore, Hatsum can grab his opponent's wrist, perform the triple strike combination, or utilize his throws. Falcon loses. In this matchup, Agito can most likely overcome Falcon's ninjutsu. In relation to Falcon's unpredictability, the Formless only possesses one window of opportunity, whereas Falcon possesses two of them. Therefore, Agito in his Formless stance is more unpredictable and has fewer openings. Falcon loses. Akoya can overcome surprise attacks with his reflexes. However, Falcon's ninjutsu is not a mere surprise attack. I'll reiterate what I said with Nicholas. The purpose of the hand signs is to distract an opponent long enough that they don't notice Falcon's feint. Therefore, fighters who rely solely on reflexes will fall for an attack that they literally cannot see. In this matchup, Akoya would fall for Falcon's misdirection. Considering that sidestepping would make him more vulnerable, he simply wouldn't use it. However, Akoya is capable of using Rihito's brute force strategy. Instead of using Razor's Edge, Akoya would begin biting. Considering that biting has never resulted in Akoya's victory, it's safe to assume that Falcon can sustain it. After all, he was able to continue fighting even after taking Razor's Edge. Furthermore, Falcon's Toxic Avenger would serve to weaken Akoya's reflexes, as seen with Rihito's loss of focus. Therefore, the Falcon can overcome justice. Falcon wins. In this matchup, Raia can absolutely exploit Falcon's ninjutsu. For example, removal will enable Raia to strike Falcon before his misdirection can be implemented. Furthermore, Raia can easily use Rihito's brute force strategy. After sustaining Falcon's magic trick, Raia can launch a blow or use a technique. Therefore, the devil is more than capable of snapping Albert back to reality. Falcon loses. In this matchup, Sekibayas is able to exploit Falcon's ninjutsu. After sustaining Falcon's magic trick, Sekibayas will perform any throw at his disposal. Whether it be an arm whip or a suplex, it will have enough power to incapacitate Falcon. Therefore, a match between these two would be entertaining, so long as Sekibayas keeps his act. Falcon loses. In this matchup, Sawpang is able to exploit Falcon's ninjutsu. After sustaining Falcon's magic trick, Sapang will perform the Hammer of Burma. Therefore, this is a very poor matchup for the ninja. Falcon loses. In this matchup, Setsuna can overcome Falcon's ninjutsu. For example, Setsuna can move within Falcon's blind spot anytime he blinks. Following Falcon's confusion, Setsuna will land a Raksasa Palm. Furthermore, considering Setsuna's Nico style, he can also use Rahito's brute force strategy. After surviving Falcon's magic trick, Kiryu will launch another Raksasa Palm. Therefore, Falcon's ninjutsu doesn't hold a candle to other fantasy martial arts. Falcon loses. In this matchup, Bando Yohei can overcome Falcon's ninjutsu. By extending his arms and throwing them like a whip, Bando can generate immense amounts of speed and power. Therefore, Bando will land his strike before Falcon can implement his misdirection. Falcon loses. In this matchup, Gaolang can easily overcome Falcon's ninjutsu. The Thai God of War possesses the fastest blows in the Kengen Association. He can throw 13 jabs in a second and manage to overcome Agita's Formless. Therefore, Gaolang is well within his means of blitzing Falcon before he can implement his misdirection. Falcon loses. Albert Lee is not weak. He is significantly stronger than the likes of Yumigahama and Terasi. Although Albert possesses one of the most unconventional strategies in Kengen, he doesn't possess enough power or durability to put it into practice, especially in the Kengen Association, where everyone can sustain a comically large amount of punishment. Considering Albert's improvements, he must refine every tool at his disposal. Albert's misdirections and sidesteps have been perfected. As such, he shouldn't expect further growth from these skills. However, Albert can still refine his toxic Avenger. In order to do so, Albert must learn how to grapple. Grappling is a broad discipline that is applied in many different martial arts. It's a style of hand-to-hand combat that emphasizes grabbing or seizing an opponent in close range to gain a physical advantage. Falcon in particular can become an excellent grappler thanks to his partially trained claws. With this attribute, Falcon can dig his claws into his opponent's body, transforming even the most basic guard into a gruesome attack. Furthermore, these close quarters scenarios would be perfect for spreading his poison. Therefore, Albert should apply the Toxic Avenger into his digits. This will enable Albert to weaken his opponents while simultaneously dealing damage, giving Albert unprecedented ground control compared to other grapplers. If Albert Lee was to implement such a strategy, he would have effectively blended his romantics with rational strategies that best leverage his best tool. However, as it stands now, Albert Lee has reached a dead end. Thank you for watching. As of right now, I do not intend to make another video like this for a while. However, after his match is over, the next fighter I will be analyzing is the Tiger Vessel, Fei Wangfang. We will be leaving Lolong Donair for last. If this interests you, you might want to subscribe. In the meantime, I'll be sure to make more videos on other Kengen related topics. As always, this has been the Cyborg Whale named after Italian cheese and a dessert item. Goodbye.